Good sleep is everything. That's why Ollie's science-backed support is made with a blend of melatonin and L-theanine for both kiddos and grown-ups. So when your mind won't switch off, you've got something that can help. Your racing thoughts and restless nights won't stand a chance. Find Ollie sleep solutions for the whole family at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
This episode is brought to you by Google Chrome. You think you know a browser, but Gemini and Chrome? That's new. It can help you with practically anything on the web, like restoring a vintage motorcycle from a 50-page restoration blog, or finally break down that long article you've had open for weeks. Gemini and Chrome is here for it. Ready to make anything online make sense? There's no place like Chrome. Check responses, setup required, compatibility and availability varies 18+.
Before we begin, quick disclaimer. Nothing in this episode should be considered investment advice. Results discussed have not been independently vetted. Any claims made by the guests have not been verified. The content is for educational purposes only. Views expressed by the guests do not reflect those of the host or this show. For most of our lives, we've been told that success follows a simple formula. Work hard, get the degree, build your expertise, find a stable career, climb the corporate ladder, save for retirement. For generations, that formula worked. But today, something feels different. AI is changing how work gets done. Companies are flatlining their organizations. Teams are getting smaller. Some of the world's largest businesses are discovering they can accomplish more with fewer people than ever before. If you spent the last 10, 20, or even 30 years becoming an expert, it's natural to wonder, what happens if expertise alone is no longer enough? The question isn't whether doctors, lawyers, consultants, executives, or entrepreneurs will continue to create value. They will. The bigger question is this: who captures that value? Does your employer capture it? Does technology capture it? Or do you? Today's guest, Danny Carpio, believes we're witnessing one of the biggest shifts in how careers and businesses are built. His argument isn't that everyone needs to quit their job tomorrow or become the next Silicon Valley founder. Instead, he believes the most valuable asset in the future isn't a company. It's an individual who knows how to leverage technology, systems, relationships, and ownership to multiply their impact. He calls this idea the Unfirm, a world where the new unit of scale is no longer the corporation, it's you. In this conversation, we'll explore how professionals can stop thinking only in terms of earning a paycheck and start thinking like builders of assets, leverage, and long-term freedom. Whether you're early in your career or decades into it, this episode would challenge the assumptions many of us have made about work, security, and what it truly means to build a career that you own. So let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. From Los Angeles, I have Danny Carpio, an organizational architect, system builder, and author of the upcoming book, The Unfirm, The New Unit of Scale Is You. Danny, welcome.
Chris, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Briefly introduce yourself.
I have a very unique background. I came out of a traditional legal background, but ended up taking a very untraditional approach because I didn't want to be anchored in an employment structure that made me miserable. So I ended up taking over a firm straight out of law school, scaled, modernized it, recaptured time, a lot of bumps and bruises, a lot of wins. With the ability to scale and recapture time, I redeployed my time into other things, which included learning more about capital markets, businesses, and entrepreneurship, and ended up making my way into Chainlink and understanding what I saw with the shift to cloud. Dove into smart contracts as part of how the future can operate more cleanly. Was able to dig in there and jump into building my own startup through Ready Player DAO, a Web3 gaming infrastructure and enablement organization with a team. Right timing, good luck, a lot of hard work. Ended up building and scaling other startups and consulting firms and layering in my legal work into that. Long and short of that is I've been building my own professional stack for how I want to work for a very long time. With the latest developments in AI, the collapse of the execution and coordination costs, self-scale is possible for me. That's what led me to write the book on view our operating environment. It starts with our assumptions about what is possible and what environment we're actually operating in. Then it moves to where's the optimal unit of scale with those new updated assumptions. Then that opened up a new path I thought was optimal that the market will reward. I think we're seeing that today with Upwork announcing their layoffs. The large institutions are collapsing their organizational structure to the smallest unit of scale. That's my intro. That's what I've been working on.
I'm always in the market place for ideas. And what do you mean by the Unfirm and by the new unit of scale is you?
The first and easiest way to have this conversation is defining our terms, because there are assumptions that a lot of us have about how we need to organize ourselves to achieve the outcomes we want. This book and what I'm talking about is specifically about how do we achieve the outcome that we want, which is scale, operational revenue scale our time. People want different things, but generally speaking, it's how do we achieve scale now? The Unfirm is reference to the old way of doing that has been unchallenged because it worked really well. There's nothing that worked better than that. That's why the public companies were the way they were, or are they how they are. That's why our employment structures are how they are. And we're starting to see that unravel. I think what people are looking to build in a skeuomorphic way, the same organizational structures that we are familiar with, but they're not looking downstream at what actually changed that is causing these new things to be possible. Things are easier now. Oh, I can just spin up something. But what does that mean for how scale is achieved? And we have to look downward at the assumptions of what you build scale on top of. But once we agree on that underlying assumption that new things are possible and that you can scale differently, the market rewards being able to do it in a more efficient way. Then we have to unpack how to do that optimally. The Unfirm takes the fundamental approach that we have to look at not those old assumptions, but also what the outputs were that made the firm so good. We still have to achieve those outcomes. That is what scale is, right? Scale your revenues, scale distribution, messaging, outputs that require human labor that maybe no longer do and arguably don't. I use it as a reference point because that's the context we want. We need to be able to get those outcomes in a much better way. Not only can we, but if you don't, you will lose. That is where we're going on the curve. That's why the large institutions are starting to race down. There's a competition between them to survive this fundamental restructuring that has to happen for them to make it, because what they scaled on top of, those old assumptions, aren't true. That same thing that's letting them do that is empowering us. It's a mass democratization event. Within that, there's a competency gap because of how we interacted with our work as employees. That's a conversation I want to have because that is a systemic issue. We're talking about north of 100 million people in the United States that rely on these large institutional structures. Showing them the perspective of these assumptions they thought was safe is now at risk. They need to mitigate and learn new ways to create value. Also showing them that they can through expanding what they view their job as, not just a unit of production for someone else's ownership, but you can scale yourself and achieve those outcomes. I want to close that gap for people. It's intended to provide a point of reference for people to engage in that.
I want to dive into this idea of the new unit of scale is you, because traditionally when we've talked about scaling, it's money, people, time, resources, systems, processes. If the new unit of scale is you, how can people multiply and scale productively?
In writing the book, part of the assumption is everyone is fundamentally different. I didn't want to work for other people because they always wanted to mandate what I do and how I do it. I never wanted to do that. I think most people don't want to. They just end up doing it because the trade-offs. I got a family. I totally get it. Your point is why the old system was good. People make those trade-offs for good reasons. I take an approach that anyone can take with having a ruthless self-assessment. Treat yourself as a small company. Datafication, what I call it. Let's look at what you actually have under the hood. Core competencies. Everyone, when I sit down and talk to them, they're really good at something. It's something the market will pay them for. That's why they have jobs. Starting with what does the market pay you for? What are you not that good at? Then unpacking how much capital do you have, putting it in front of you, categorizing and understanding through a constraint-based design system that is dynamic, where you're always looking at what you have. You can only do what you have in front of you. And don't get boxed in by that. It starts with datafication and self-assessment. Then it goes into having a time architecture. We are locked in by physics. How do we approach the design of our relationship with time and productivity? Instead of cramming everything into one bucket, that reset. My approach includes treating your time as a portfolio asset. Instead of viewing your time as something I sell one-to-one, is how do we maximize our return on time? I take that through a portfolio approach. You need your cash flow. With that same output, you should be getting as many types of returns as you possibly can. You should be able to recapture your time and reallocate it. Any system that you have needs to be able to do those things, or you can't scale. We have to operate with how we manage time. That includes being able to allocate it efficiently, get as much return from it, that it's not just cash one-to-one, but that is a skill, a software application, a network relationship, cash now, cash later, equity, power law, overlapping your time, recapturing it, reallocating, compounding. What we see is the person that doesn't do that, which is most people, is their time resets and they're here. This is a 4-year block, by the way. 4 years here, 4 years here. Someone who treats their time in the right way and augments themselves in the right way, leverages an approach like the Unfirm, which is a framework. It's going to look different for everyone. Suddenly in 4 years, they're here. They got their time back. They're now working through So they're starting on a higher point than another 4-year block. What you're seeing is instead of waiting 45 years for compounding through someone else's ownership structure, which is now no longer going to be available for you, in my view, you're now building your own assets. You're moving everything faster. That is what has really been unlocked, is our ability to do that. It's like how is operate outside the laws of physics with our time at scale. Hopefully that answers your question.
Right now, get up to 15% off select storage solutions. Put heavy-duty HDX totes to good use, protecting what's important to you. The solid, impact-resistant design prevents cracking, and the clear base and sides make items easy to find even when the totes are stacked. Find select shelving and tote storage up to 15% off at the Home Depot to organize every room in your home, from your garage to your attic. Visit HomeDepot.com. How doers get more done.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Most physicians are great at making money, but terrible at growing it. You work 60-hour weeks while your savings sit in accounts earning basically nothing. NERP changes this. It's algorithmic trading designed specifically for busy professionals who don't have time to watch markets. AI-powered strategies that work while you're seeing patients. No day trading, no guesswork, just systematic wealth building designed for people with demanding careers. Built for physicians who want their money working as hard as they do. Check out start.nerp.com/doctors. That's start.nerp.com/doctors to learn more. Links in the show notes below. Note, NERP is a paid sponsor of this episode. All trading carries risk and results vary, so do your own research. This isn't financial advice. What came to mind, I'm on Twitter a lot, was interesting was there's this example of a farmer in a third world country. He basically fishes all day. Then somebody from America comes to that country. He offers the fisherman, we can set up a business, make money. The fisherman's, why would I want? Essentially, it's all getting your time. Question is, there's two people with a bunch of time, like the super rich and wealthy, or it's the unemployed, or people that don't want to work in the structure that you talked about. How does someone go about scaling themselves? Everybody is rich in time, but for the broke or unemployed, people that can't find jobs, how do they start to scale themselves?
That's the $1 million question. There's a lot of classes of people within that bucket. There's two classes of people that I am particularly hoping to reach that need to hear this because they are good at what they do. They need to have a fundamental framework and approach. Those two classes are the young. I have a partner, he's 25. We have a game publishing studio. He took it over from his dad. It's a lot of fun. I have a little brother who's 24. These guys know it. The jig is up. They know that the thing that they've been sold was mortgaged away by people older than them, and they know that's not even an option. That's an easier conversation. They're more cynical. That class of people, how do they do it? It might be easier because they don't have the biases that we have. I'm 40. I had to unlearn things. I had to realize that I was lied to about what was the right thing to do and that no one knew what they were doing. In some ways, they have a cleaner slate there, even though people think it's less opportunity. I think they're in a better position. What I would say to them is the constraint they have is that they lack lived experience. So there's a constraint on they need to build their network. They need to build their core skills while understanding that what they have already is very easily monetizable in ways you and I don't understand. These people talk in different ways. They pay for different stuff. Their consumer behavior is completely unknown to us. And so it's looking at what they have, what people are responding to, and having disciplined, iterative design loops on your time. The core of what I'm saying is when you can do anything, the hard moved is what I like to say. Everything didn't get easier. Some things got easier that are now massive unlocks for everyone. Hard just moved. There's market competition. So you have to design what you do so that you catch yourself from drifting and put bumpers on yourself like a bowling lane. Otherwise, you're going to scale garbage. Instead of scaling garbage, you break yourself on the rail with a quick dynamic feedback loop. But the core of what self-scale requires is a dynamic feedback loop, which I call design management operation, which is you have to spend time strategically patient, looking at what you're doing at your day, at your week, at your month, at your year, at your multi-year. And that will be a dynamic looking little bumper system where you drift, but then you come back and it compounds in that. So I think as long as they have that feedback loop in place, that's the main thing. Test your assumptions, always go back to design, jump into management and operation, and then come back to it. And then treat your time as a bucket of portfolio assets. They're going to be all right. I'm super stoked on the younger generation. The one above me, I was like, nah, that's not it. The younger ones, 1000%. I'm bullish on them. And I've been working with young people way younger than me for a long time now. And I love it. Who's going to change everything? My generation, my peers who took a more traditional path, they have their golden handcuffs. They have their mortgage. They have their jobs. They are experts, incredibly smart people. The way I interface with them is I maximize return on time for them. They have leverageable assets. I find ways to maximize their time in a positive some way. I win with letting people work with me however they want. Basically, I'm like, however you want to work, I'm going to work. And I solve scale myself manually is how I did it. And now it's much easier. Those people, it's going to be more challenging because we have to convince them they have more risk baked into what they're doing. They also have way more marketable value. I think those folks need to revisit what they thought was safe. And you talk to your buddies, I talk to mine. We got kids. They think their jobs are safe. And I'm not a doomer. Everyone's trying to replace everyone. It's rational economic behavior. We all do it. Everyone's trying to get economic advantages. That's just a rational capital market. When what you have historically thought is the most safe thing now is acting economically rationally against your interests, you have to wake up to that. But the thing that they are doing is actually better for you because you don't need their infrastructure to deliver your value. You can capture the value. So it's a really empowering conversation, a really challenging one. I think those are the two cohorts of that demographic that you identified that I think would benefit the most from this. There's people in that conversation that I don't have a good answer to right this second. That's my answer there.
You alluded to companies. You're in the space, so I'm sure you know about Coinbase, that Twitter post where he was talking about smaller teams, faster execution, and using AI agents. As trillion-dollar companies become one founder, one owner, and thousands of AI agents, is everybody going to have to become an entrepreneur?
You're on Twitter a lot, so I think this will make sense to you. A lot of people talking about why everything's going away, why everyone's panicking. But even the ones trying to dismiss the job apocalypse or whatever you want to call it, they still recognize that there's going to be this painful part. It's just they're not impacted by it. So it's easy to say, yeah, look, there's transition pains. It'll be a couple years, but it'll be fine later. It's easy for people who aren't impacted by that, but that's a lot of people. So I think what we can learn from this and from those companies is that we need to be that, but they know they need to. It's harder for them. Coinbase, for example, what are they doing? They're saying no middle layer. We need high agency pods. Everything is going down to a new unit of scale. The max productivity, we can get 10, 100x from our best people. But what's going to happen next? They think that's a survival mechanism, transient in nature. After they effectuate that, those people will replace their organizational structure that extracts and arbitrages that. Then what do they do? So it's a race to replace because that's what's logically next. As they collapse down, you can only build margin on people that don't need you for so long. And that's going to fail for them. And they know that too. And so that's what, with reference to how they're designing, is how we should be scaling up in the feedback loop. It's all uncharted territory. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly how it has to look. It's going to look how it needs to. To answer your question, everyone needs to and will create their own job. You'll create your own output values. You'll be able to interact commercially at scale. You'll need to be able to evolve in an environment where switching costs are a month away, basically. Everyone's trying to replace everyone. Switching costs disappear as fast as you got them. That operating environment is dynamic and it favors smaller units of scale.
In doomsday scenario, what about people needing to grow their own food, water supply, shelter, transportation, not depend, become completely self-sovereign?
That's tail risk. If we put buckets of things that people need to be able to do on their own, that they have outsourced or they have traded for perceived security, I think risk management is right at the top. Is proper risk management. The reason I give that lens is for context for my next statement. But I view tail risk management as critical. Have you read Anti-Fragile? I love that book. I took it to heart. If you let free markets work, that volatility, people can survive volatility. They can't survive you carrying their water. Then you take it away and they can't do stuff. Tail risk management on the doomsday scenario is always important, but I'm more optimistic long-term. You can't over-index for tail risk because then your risk management is off. It's called tail risk for a reason. There's a low chance of it happening, but you have to be paired. You cannot discard it. You cannot over-index for it.
How can people connect with you, given fantastic insights?
Thank you. You make it easy because you ask really good questions that let me go deep into it. I post content through our distributed brand surface called Augmented Things on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active with showing and amplifying folks that are building in this way. I think distributed shared channels are so important for amplifying each other. I'm not trying to sell people stuff. You got to amplify what's working, how are people doing it, and show people they can. It's a way to express ideas and amplify folks that are doing it, then let the market decide. I write articles there, reply, engage, and amplify folks. If you're building something cool, definitely follow, I'll share there. The book is on Amazon, anywhere online. I'm really excited about that.
Really enjoyed talking with you. A very insightful conversation.
Christopher, thank you. I love talking about this stuff. I appreciate you.
Let's zoom out. If you're a physician, founder, or high-income professional, and you feel like you're working harder every year, but not structurally freer, you're not alone. The mistake isn't effort, it's architecture. This show exists to help you convert expertise into scalable leverage faster and with fewer expensive missteps. Here's the diagnostic I mentioned before. If your income requires your constant presence, if your capital isn't compounding outside your profession, if your highest value talent is doing low value tasks, you don't have a growth problem, you have a leverage design problem. And if you want to fix it with clarity instead of guesswork, I offer a limited number of one-on-one leverage strategy sessions each month. We audit your income model, capital deployment, authority positioning, and structural bottlenecks, and design your highest return move. If you're serious about compressing years into months, the link to apply is below.